Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Lucid, and I've got Sai joining me once again.
This is Sai joining Lucid once again after a fairly long absence.
Yeah, but for you, you won't have noticed. So that's always a bonus when we've got a nice buffer of turns recorded.
Yeah.
So Sai, here's a real question: do you remember what's actually happening? Because the last time we recorded was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so TNG was functionally dying. They were basically being coalitioned and everyone was eating them due to their diplomatic breakdown with Erythia, in which Erythia had broken their nap and gone all in. And while TNG had tried valiantly in order to actually win battles against both Pangaea and Erythia, and they've been able to deal a lot of damage to Erythia because Erythia has been fielding these largely unprepared armies. So we saw, for instance, Rain of Stones do a ton of work in multiple battles. But they did eventually get beaten down by mostly by Pangaea, just by Pangaea doing fairly efficient use of just mass Centaur Sages. So
Yeah.
with that, TNG is basically falling back to the point where they're not really viable, but as their last-ditch defense, they put up Vengeful Waters, and that seems to have bought them some space. It's gotten everyone to back off a little bit, and you can see from the battle reports there that TNG is attacking more than they're being attacked into. So people need to like regroup, make their water bottles, basically get their stuff together to fight into Vengeful Water, which is not trivial by any means. And while
Yeah.
that's happening, TNG is given a little bit of breathing room. So they're most likely not viable to win anymore, but they've become more of a potential, well, player once again.
Right. And, throwing off a quick, the possibility of a quick defeat, it's going to allow possibly for the Diplo to change, right? Because as TNG is clearly not a coalition target anymore, which he's clearly not now. I mean, he may be getting coalitioned, but there's no need for it at all. There's no justification. Anybody who's not standing to gain a lot from this war with TNG is also going to start seeing them as a potential ally, right? Because okay, you're fighting Pan, right? Or you're fighting Gath, or you're fighting Zabalba, whoever it is you're fighting, or Arithia, that's potentially useful to a bunch of players. So,
Right. Yeah.
okay, we'll start with a message here from TNG. The star formation of cubes was to maximize contact to kill Aussies faster in case he did a morale play. Screened with 200 sacrificial Aussies. Not likely, but I know I need my mages to not die running in a fort. Now we are breaking out, and I can do a much more anti-Aussie single boring blob. I don't know if Zabalba will fight me. He should know if he runs Aussies into cubes, they will die on contact. He can bring 400 and he'll still lose and achieve very little. But he should also know Dark Vines don't really care about cubes, at least assuming he's buffing them. My plan is to kill all his Aussies and then stall the Dark Vines with cubes for rigor mortis to set in, and then let the undead thugs and wrathful skies kill his mages. I don't think this is a particularly good plan, but I think it can work, and I don't see a lot of other options. So far, no assassination from Zabalba, so hopefully that stays true. I think I can win this fight against him, though I rather doubt it will be the case next time. Pan's main offensive stack has stopped moving. We're going to hit it with our Wind of Death team this round if they stay put. Doubtless he will have something more than just charmed horrors to counter them, but we'll find out how it goes. Okay. And Vengeful Waters kills this turn 19 sages, 2 pans, 1 dryad, 1 mystic, 10 scouts, 1 commander, 3 pan fire mages, Inquisitor, Fire Lord, Pyromancer. Survivors were Golem and 4 centaur sages who spent some gems with bodyguards who all died, 2 pans and 1 Kamazot. Okay. It's
Pretty good
kind of
kill
cool since
list,
we
yeah.
can't see that. Yeah. I mean, Pan can certainly replace these losses at every turn, but it's definitely making it so his power level's probably not growing anymore, right? At least at the moment. I mean, he might be gaining gems, but
But yeah, he's losing enough mages that it's like it's basically at the point where Pangea's decision to pull back makes a lot of sense. That like, you need to actually respect the Vengeful Waters enough to keep your stuff alive. Otherwise, you're not doing very much good.
right. Yeah, and we'll come look at the map in a second here. So a message from Zabalba. Looks like Vetti is failing real-life morale checks based on some of the battles he had last turn and this turn. Can't say I blame him. Being ganked by most of your neighbors tends to grind away your resolve, especially once your tools to fight back up Oh, wait. To
fight
fight
back.
back, start trying up. Real life stuff and being a Dom 6 beta tester might also play into it. Something I wanted to mention last turn, blood hunting provides another form of gem income. Once you pile up 150 to 200 corpses in a province, you can start casting Raven Feast to convert it 3 air gems into about 6 to 10 death gems based on the amount of corpses. Raven Feast does require quite a high air mage to cast, but if you have the mages and air income and enough big blood hunting provinces, you can really boost your death income through Raven Feast. In my tournament qualifier games, I was able to get an extra 20 to 30 death gems a turn just from Raven Feast. Raven Feast also is a way to rebate some of your death gems if you start spamming Black Death at enemy caps, high population provinces. Based on my testing, you can come out a bit ahead in death gems if you hit provinces with over 30k. Pan is still, yeah, I've done this too recently. I got I think it was late game, and it was a kind of weird situation, but it's me and another guy were about the same size, and everybody started attacking me, and so I just started Black Deathing people's capitals.
And then Raven Feasting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just okay, fuck you all.
Yeah, the one downside of Raven's Feast is that, or at least with Black Death, is that I believe it goes after the corpse cleanup from the following turn. So you have to use Raven Feast either on the same turn, in which case you have a 50-50 chance of activating it, or more likely you just accept that you're not getting the full value from it.
Yeah, I did it the turn after, and there's a risk they could put a dome up too. But that dome, once the capital's already been hit with Black Death, it's not really a juicy target for number 2. So, there's not a ton of value in the dome, and yeah, it wasn't just their capital. I hit all their capitals. So, if they were a 4-cap nation, we were just checking them off the list. But it's kind of shitty. I don't know. It is something to think about. I think if you're in a war with somebody and they're not really planning on conquering you, or you're not planning on conquering them, what is it? No, they're not planning on conquering you. Anyway, if you're not going to get their capital, it's reasonable to cast Black Death at it, right? Or the final war.
I mean, yeah, if you don't get it, why should anyone else get it type thing?
Right. And likewise, if you understand the other person's in that scenario, it's a good reason to put domes on your caps. Okay.
Pan is still hugging to dome your caps at this point anyways.
Yeah, it's even, stuff like Ashaic records, so people can have score graphs, things like that. So a bunch of reasons. Pan's still hugging most or all of the mercs each turn, which suggests 2 things. Either the rest of the lobby's too lazy to do a min bid of plus 1 or 2 gold when the mercs pop up, or Pan is dumping some of their extra gold into the mercs. I like picking up. I think we know what it is. Pan doesn't like recruiting troops. He's like, if we're gonna get anything but Centaur sages, we're gonna buy them, or we're gonna rent them from the mercenaries.
Yeah, the other thing is that mercenaries are very efficient. Just in terms of what you get for the cost. It actually does make sense to use them as long as you're able to get them consistently.
Yeah, and you're going to put them in life or death scenarios. You definitely don't want to get them if you're not exactly sure what you're going to do with them.
Yeah, but while you're actively invading someone, mercenaries are awesome. They're some of the most efficient things you can buy.
Yeah. I like picking up mercs on min bid. I'm sorry, I can't talk today. Especially as their price decreases the longer they've been around and unemployed, to act as Evo bait and disposable raiding parties. But for Zabalba, we can still get much better ROI by getting our national mages and good indie mages. Toldy. Okay. All right, so let's start, I guess, with TNG. We've got some little raids going around here. So this is this super interesting little 12 mage stack, which isn't really that. What's the goal? To 12 times 90? So that's okay. It's not that cheap.
Yeah, it's over 1,000.
Yeah. I wonder if these guys had water lenses.
They're probably completely unequipped.
They are. Okay.
Did one of them cast Earth Power? Or how's that E2?
Oh, I'm sure there was a...
Was there a gem on there?
Yeah, it's Earth Power, so...
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just the soul slowly spam with a couple elementals. I mean, this is just... It's not cheap, but it is very difficult to efficiently counter. So...
Yeah, gets the job done, too.
Okay. More raiding over here. We'll just see what TNG's using to take these provinces back. Wasn't there a smith? Oh, yeah, here they are. Wooden Warrior, summon Earth Power, Strength of Giants. Okay, so these are just like area of effect buffed ancestor vessels. This would probably like kill a golem. I don't know what he was expecting to find here. Wouldn't do well against Ozzy's, but
Yeah, I think that's just relatively light deployment, so that like any like very casual raiding party would bounce off that. It's just not really what you would want against Shabalb in particular, given that the scope of his raiding has been much higher. Like he just actually seriously commits whenever he drops a raiding party anywhere.
right. Now, Tianchi may have ridden out here. Wait, no. Tianchi attacking Zabalba. Oh, that was a gym bait. But let's see exact. Oh, wait, Vaettiheim. Wait, what was this? Oh, this was a soulless mage with just the criteria left to gym bait. So this was a magic phase thing from Vaettiheim. And Tianchi must ride out then. All right, so we got a fight. Okay, so we've got a big line of Dark Vines. We've got a pile of Oslotls.
Very minimal mage support, it looks like.
Yeah.
Although he should have enough to cast all the essentials.
And that seems to be how Zabalba wants to roll, is like...
Yeah. Which kind of makes sense, because his mages are plus economy anytime that they're not in the field.
Right. So Tianchi...
Is almost the
Storm
opposite.
Staff here in the back.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's almost the opposite in that he's got a pile of troops and a pile of mages and very few troops. He's strictly relying on these cubes to do stuff for him, and whatever the mages are going to be doing.
All right, let's watch this. By the way, we'll watch it through, and then we'll come back and commentate. I'm just gonna let it run.
Yes, the thing that I'm bad at.
Yeah. Oh no, I know what happened. Oh no.
It looked really good for a bit there, though.
Do you know what happened?
I would guess that Wailing Winds actually just got rid of an essential TNG mage.
I don't think Demonic Cleansing ever went off.
Well, he's relying on the the cubes, which don't really care about demonic cleansing.
Oh wait, did this guy run too? Oh wait, no, there is Demonic Cleansing.
But the thing is that demonic cleansing only really matters for the shield. For the actual attack, they're...
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, that's some serious damage. But yeah, so for the actual attack, it's only they're relying on the swallow effect. Which tends to be really good against Ocelotls, right? Because they have decent hit points and they're stacked with buffs and all that good stuff. Actually, I guess the demonic cleansing for the acid shield does matter.
Yeah, that's the main thing. That's why he's like, they won't survive in contact. Oh, now what happened? This was the caster. He failed a morale check.
Yeah, so that was
what
power
happened.
Of Wailing Winds.
The power of Wailing Winds. Now, to be fair, this guy did not have high morale. Like, he doesn't have morale gear on. Normally, these enchantments that, like, if you cast Mass Protection, you just need to get up and your job's done. But certain things like Demonic Cleansing, it's not a strict debuff. It's a battlefield enchantment that you have to hold up. So this guy is, like, kind of the most important guy in the whole army. He needs, like, a fire hat to give him more morale. And maybe even a miscellaneous item. Now, TNG has been sparing no expense kitting their guys. So it's a little Monday morning quarterback for me to come in and be like, well, you should have put more items on them. It's like, dude, I put 1 million items on my guys.
Yeah, the other thing is that he just doesn't have the items spare anymore at this point, right? Like, he'd been commenting on like how expensive it had been to lose those items the first time around. So he's just not really in a position to really be able to afford items on everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that, like, the dragon helmets are pretty cheap, right? They're just 5 fire
Right.
gems base, so, like, with a hammer, it's just down to 3, or if you... I don't think that TNG Smith's random fire. But either way, the issue that you're going to run into, though, is that, like, even if you can afford them, you have to decide who goes where, and TNG also has a fairly limited number of mages, if I recall correctly. For mage turns for
Right.
forging, I mean.
So there might have also, we can look at all the buffs that went off too. Did he get, so he got Will of Fates off. He got Army of Gold. I don't think we saw Fog Warriors go off, but he got most all the important buffs off here. So yeah, I really think it, maybe there, because I was thinking maybe he got, I was thinking the demonic cleansing guy got assassinated, but yeah,
He's there. He just
Wailing
ran.
Winds. Yeah. It's possible some other important buff didn't go off, but I think if he just did demonic cleansing, he probably would win because the Aussies would all be dead, and then it would just be him fighting Dark Vines, which, yeah, I don't know. I think that would work.
Yeah, and the Dark Vines, even like heavily buffed, they don't tend to do well, or they don't tend to do much damage output. So as long as your mages are capable of dealing with them eventually, then he should be okay, because Xibalba doesn't really have a win condition other than the Wailing Winds. I will say, though, that, like, even if he did kill all the
He's our
Aussies...
armor piercing, though.
Yeah, I will say, though, that, like, even if the Dark Vines don't manage to, like, kill everything very quickly, it's most likely the case that if it did come down to it and he did get rid of the Aussies by keeping the demonic cleansing up, that his mage core would have routed before they killed all the Dark Vines. So the battle would have looked better, right? Like, he would have gotten a lot more Ocelotls killed, but I don't think that he would have won in the end. I think that what would have happened, if everyone had, or if that guy had stuck around, and indeed if even more of his mages had stuck around, then what you'd be looking at is just a very similar battle result, just with more demons killed.
Yeah, that's possible. There's other things that are important here, like for anytime you're doing a morale play. Why is this guy so high? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah,
Wait,
anytime you're doing a morale, one of these guys had 17 morale. I guess these guys have really high base morale. Experience 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
15 base, and he's a high experience. But it's the 15 base that matters. One of the big upsides, of the Ancestor Smiths is that high morale base.
Yeah.
It's actually something that TNG had mentioned very early on as to why these guys become such good late game mages.
Yeah. Obviously, the Celestial Master doesn't have it. The other thing that's kind of important is Dominion. So, this is TNG's throne that they're fighting on, but it has Zabalban Dominion in it. And that's another major 2-point swing, right? So this guy would be 11 morale, but he's starting off with 9. So it's really not safe. The other thing they can do, and he's been doing these communions. I don't know if he still has any of the gear, but if you can get a guy, I don't know who it would have to be, maybe a prophet or something. I don't think TNG gets, I don't like this guy. So this guy's part of a communion. He can do, what is it, fanaticism? Or am I thinking, yeah, fanaticism. That's going to do +1 morale to everybody too. So, controlling your Dominion and doing that can be pretty swingy in these morale play fights. Okay, so what does this mean? TNG wrote out. So I think this means, first of all, this throne's going to Zabalba.
Oh, yeah. I mean, TNG almost certainly doesn't have a way to defend that now that he's already lost all those cubes there. Because even if he could gateway another army in, he can't get enough mages in to provide all the support that they'd need.
Yeah. And you don't really want to fight Zabalba in a fort if you can, like in a fort defense, because you'll die when you run from Wailing Winds. So you really want to ride out and fight like he did. The other interesting thing is that, actually, I don't know if this fort was cracked the previous turn, but Zabalba definitely didn't storm this turn. Okay, so TNG, they've got a big army in the south. They got a big army in their cap. I think that's about it.
Yeah, but it's going to be hard to field those troops effectively, I think. Because, like, Pangaea's already shown that it's very challenging to, actually get a good fight against him because of the various tricks that he can use, like the whole recall army shtick.
Yeah.
So it's very challenging for him to, actually take that fight, even if he does manage to move his army down there, he's most likely not going to be able to fight Pangaea head on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's certainly true. And I think the other thing, it's something we kind of hinted at a minute ago, but not only did he lose this army, and not only did he lose all these cubes, but he lost not only all the mages, he lost the items. And the items have so far been the limiting thing for TNG. Now, I think the Storm Staff guy managed to retreat.
Right.
So I don't
he's-
think he lost the Storm Staff, but he lost everything else. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Storm Staff guy made it out, and that was the one really expensive item that he had on the field. This army was
Yeah.
actually much less well equipped than some of the other armies that we've seen from him. So I actually don't
Yeah.
think that it's quite as bad as it would have
I
been.
mean, so like this tile, three guys with tons of armor.
Yeah, it's mostly the temp gems that are expensive. Everything else that he lost is fairly
Yeah,
replaceable.
there's a lot of items in this army, man. Oh no, did this guy die? What is this? The Imperial Preceptor? We need to see if he died. He had a Ring of Sorcery. Dear God. Oh God. The Ancestor Guide. Sweet baby Jesus. Yeah, dude, there's hundreds of gems on this army.
Yeah. You're right. I actually didn't realize how much armor there was there.
Okay, so this guy got away. The guy with the Ring of Sorcery got away. And most of the Ancestor Smiths, I don't know. There's still hundreds of gems lost and items, but fortunately, this guy escaped. And some of the Ancestor Smiths, but yeah, yikes. Yikes. Okay. But yeah, I think that the real thing with that is now it's like, okay, but he had already lost a lot of his items. Now he still has significant armies, but he doesn't really have the mages and items, I think, to like win major fights. Like he really needed those items.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really hard for him to use these armies efficiently. But he's sitting behind Vengeful Water too, so maybe he can just kind of hang out for a little bit.
I mean, he's going to kind of have to at this point, right? Like, there's no way that he can actually pick his fight, right? Because we kind of looked at where
Right.
his armies are. He can't really proactively take an engagement. He kind of needs other people to come to him.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Let's go check the Vaettiheim world and see what happened. We had Zabalba smack talking them. Did we get a fight here? Oh, we did. All right, get out your popcorn. Round 2. We've
Wow.
got
Zabalba's taking all the fights this turn.
yeah, Zabalba. Dude, Zabalba. Who's playing it again? It's
Fullick.
Fullick, yeah, and Toldi. They don't do half measures here. Like if Zabalba is going to attack you, he's playing a little bit like Chris Lighthawk last year. You know, like when he's going to fight you, he's going to throw the kitchen sink at you, and that's certainly what we're seeing here. Now, Vaettiheim, we've got a very interesting army. We've got a bunch of cubes. We've got storm staff, a huge mage retinue in the back. We've got a bunch of these guys in the back too, which I guess are various forms of flanking bait. The Gaijas here. Presumably there's going to be a Turbo Communion. Got some Neefel Jarls.
Yeah, that's kind of the one thing that the Gaijas are good for. The big ones, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, they are really good at that. Okay. Let's watch.
I assume we're doing the same thing with, yeah.
Yeah, we can try.
Try.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Can't see anything. Oh, okay. We've got Fog Warriors on Vaettiheim. Demonic Cleansing is up.
Yeah, it's interesting that even though Vaettiheim's a blood power, their armies aren't demons. So
Right.
the demonic cleansing really is a one-sided thing.
Yeah. I mean, these Aussies are dissolving in the front line, and not like a little bit. You see like 20s and 40s popping up wherever the Aussies are.
Yeah, because they're actually both fighting these really good troops. We definitely did not do the thing, but yeah, between the actual Veti that are fighting them and the cubes with their acid shields, these guys are just melting. And it looks like Vaettiheim managed to avoid the pitfall that TNG fell into, in that his guys are just fine. They're not running away at all.
Right. And, you know, being sacred and being blessed helps too. That's another thing that can be pretty nice. Yeah, the Aussies are gone, and these Dark Vines are getting shredded. Firestorm was cast by this Archdevil.
That's probably doing more work than his actual troops at this point. Although if Vaettiheim has army of something up, then even that's not really going to do very
Yeah,
much.
he does.
Yeah.
That's not going to do anything. It'll stop Skelly spam, right? So If you're fighting Vaettiheim and they've got a turbo communion, you're worried about, the Kamehameha beam of skeletons. It will stop that. It looks like Storm is down. Oh no, it's still up. Okay, I'm gonna pick up the speed here. Got a slap fight going on over here.
Is Vaettiheim on the offense here?
He is... What turn are we on? Turn 24. Yeah, I think so. Well, no, I don't know. Yeah, he was.
Okay, yeah. So I was thinking like that golem, like depending on how it's geared, could have potentially turn timered if he'd been defensive, but on the offense you don't even have that option.
Right. Okay, so let's look at all the enchantments that went up here. So we start off with Storm. Got a bunch of Storm powers over on Betty's side. Okay, we have Relief going up on both sides. Then we have Foul Vapors going up by somebody with an Enchantress. Presumably this is going to be Zabalba. I think Vetti would just use their normal mages for that. We got Wailing Winds on both sides. One being held up by a White Mage, one by an Ifil Jarl. So right now they're putting up a lot of the same enchantments. And then we have Demonic... And then we have Demonic Cleansing going up.
I think
that's really the big one.
Yeah, so there's a couple major factors. One is, as you pointed out, that Demonic Cleansing is up, and of course that's something that's only going to be affecting these Ocelotls. The second thing is that Vaettiheim actually has like a multi-threat factor, in that he's got the cubes to deal with the Ocelotls, but he also has the actual Vetti units, right? Like his Sacreds are going to be handling these guys no problem. So between everything that Vaettiheim is using, like there's no one linchpin where, oh, if I lose this, then I lose the fight, right? Like even if his what's it called, Demonic Cleansing caster ran away, there's actually still a reasonable chance that he takes the fight just based on the troop value that he has with those heavily buffed Rim Vetti.
Yeah. And you can see he's gone to great care. I think this is his Wailing Winds caster. But he's gone to great care to make sure this guy doesn't run. He's got 20... So like these really important guys who are going to be anchoring these spells you actually have to hold up, he's anchoring them with like really high morale, in this case also really high HP mages. So yeah, these guys are not running anywhere. Yeah. What else do we have? Growing Fury, Blood Rain. And these, they're also fighting in Friendly Dominion. And these Sacreds in Friendly Dominion, even with Blood Rain up, are very high morale. They're not about to run. So this is also, like, I'm so glad we get to see such a cool write-out like this, because this is a very scary Zabalban army, but it's also not something we haven't expected. I mean, we get to see the Dark Vines mixed in, which is really cool. But we get to see basically the full Vetti suite here. And this is just such a well-scripted army. We've got a lot of these guys, there were a few Wave Warriors casters, so a lot of these guys have Liquid Body on them. And then Moss Body and Liquid Body. So we've got the Fizz Moss combo that's so strong. They all have luck. Yeah. 30 protection. These guys each of these is basically thug stats. They're really just monsters.
I will say though that it actually makes me feel kind of bad that we only now get to see this. Because, Vaettiheim had only one other real major battle where they were able to get all their pieces together before this, right? And that was that one big fight against Gath where they got gifted.
Yeah, I wonder... Let's see how this army... Like, what if we just imagine the Gath army attacking it? This also is way more spread out than before. So, like, I don't think... And this is kind of Evo bait, too. So I don't even think the Rim Vetti would have been targeted by the Gifts of Heaven spam. But
yeah, and he also has just a lot less density in general. So if there was Evo spam of any kind, right? Like, maybe he's worried about what's that big water spell called? Neefle Flames, right? He has enough like spread out stuff that there's no one concentration that's going to just instantly doom him.
Yeah. I think the thing that's really nice about this too is he's got like critical areas of density to like get buffs off, but they're not all on top of each other. He's got a lot of things spread out. The mages aren't all on top of the guys getting buffed. And it just is going to give he's getting the advantage of like the density for the point buffing without clustering everything for Evo spam. So I think it's like a much better formation than we've seen in other fights.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
And looking at it, how much did he lose? Let's look at the Butcher's Ledger. We have 2 Adepts of the Silver Order, a Dim Veti, a Hydromancer and a Gaija, 1 Soulless, 6 Hags, a Vampire Lord, and a White Mage. 10 mages in total. How many of the Rim Veti died? 7. That is amazing. Look at the kills on Rim Veti.
Yeah.
190 kills. And these aren't killing like bugs or human chaff. These 189 kills are like Dark Vines and Ocelotls.
Yeah, and if you think about like what they've been doing, it actually makes total sense, right? That they've been keeping everything locked down with their cold auras, because those are also, of course, affected by mnemonic cleansing. And then that's what's like between that and the fact that the Ocelotls are kind of just locked in melee with them with demonic cleansing up. Like it makes total sense that they would be the ones getting most of the kills.
Yeah. I didn't check. There's probably quickness on a good number of these as well.
The core in the middle almost certainly got it, yeah.
Yeah. So Balba lost all the Aussies. They lost all the Dark Vines. They lost their Golem. And that's kind of the thing that sucks about Golems is you're basically guaranteed to lose them every fight you lose. And then, but didn't really lose a ton other than that. You know, the Illusionist survived, the Inulqui survived, the Wayob survived. He lost a couple Ayats, which isn't a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, having all of your mages fly means that if they do need to get out of dodge, they will.
Yeah. So that's definitely a silver lining in this, is everything Zabalba lost was pretty replaceable. I mean, certainly they don't want it to die, but they didn't really lose a lot of the gym stuff, which is more irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, I don't think Veti is even hurting after that. I mean, they took this, Veti could take this, like, have this fight probably for the rest of the game every other turn and be, still stick in there.
I mean, they wouldn't want to, obviously, but yeah. They could get it. Yeah. They could survive it.
Right. The other thing that's interesting and important, like we haven't gotten to see this fight. Like we finally got to see Vaettiheim assemble all the things how they needed to be at the right time. So we finally got to see that. But there's a reason we haven't seen that. Like Zabalba has kept Vaettiheim kind of off balance, in conjunction with like Pan and Gath.
Yeah, I would argue it's mostly been Gath doing that.
Yeah. So it's been really hard for, and I think Vaettiheim started the war trying to like finish some research, but it's been really hard for them to actually get the fight that they wanted. That's the other problem fighting flyers is like, it's really hard to, you're getting your logistics all messed up all the time and things like that. So. Ooh, that's a pretty sizable commitment here. I think this was trying to catch a Pan army. So weird. Vaettiheim armies never looked that scary. Like you look at this battle and you're like, oh man.
It's because they're so small, yeah.
Yeah. Like Vaettiheim hardly brought anything. And you're like, oh my God, look how much stuff Zabalba brought. And it's just because like, yeah, there's a lot of guys in here.
Yeah. It's like a surprising number of guys. You don't expect to have all those guys.
You do not. That's true. That's interesting. Summon him. That's kind of cool. Okay, so Vaettiheim fiercely holding on to his 4 territories that he has left. Golf clap.
Yeah, doing his best.
Doing his best. And then Erythia mostly, we were commenting before we hit the record button, they're just these massive piles of mages here. We don't know if it's plus army items or not. It certainly is giving off plus army vibes.
Yeah, that was my guess.
Yeah. But they're not getting much out of this war so far. They're empowering Zabalba, who, they have a big border with, and Zabalba may want to eat them at some point.
To be fair, the fact that they're not getting stuff out of this war hasn't been that, like, TNG's been focusing specifically on their defense and, like just trying to focus down Erythia or anything along those lines. What's really just been happening is that TNG or Erythia's armies have run into whatever, TNG is deploying and just losing, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, okay, they're probably coming up a few... Let's look at the province graph here. Like, if we look at Erythia... Yeah, so here's the TNG downfall. right? And Arithia has just been flatlining through this.
Yeah.
And
They're
Zabalba,
actually lower than they were a couple turns ago.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this before the war started. This is when they did the Nap break. So they're 4 provinces up from that. But, like, you know, Zabalba's up probably 20 provinces or something. You know, Pan is up 30 provinces. Or I don't know. Maybe my math isn't probably right. Maybe 15 for Zabalba, 25 for Pan or something. You know, Gath is up. Like,
But yeah, like exact numbers aside, they're definitely falling behind everyone else that's been going in on this.
right. They're kind of getting played in a way. You know, they're definitely the one who's losing at the. You know, you could say the war has been worse for TNG, and I think that's true, but the person who it's been second worst for is Arithia. And they've also eroded some of their credibility, because it's like you violated a nap, and then it's like any player can basically violate their nap with you in the game and be like, well, you already broke it with this other person, why would I trust it? You know?
Well, the other thing is that, like, if you just look at like Erithia's armies, you can also say that he's eroded his respectability.
Yeah, a little bit. He's definitely not winning any. And interestingly, TNG still has bigger armies than him. Oh, God.
What I meant by
And what
that
that.
is just like not his like diplomatic reliability, but like
Right.
the way that you would need to like respect him as an opponent, or like who you, because you obviously, if you're going to be picking to fight someone, you want to pick the easier target, right? So like if one
Right.
person's just been losing armies consistently while everyone else has been like making serious gains, then Erythia starts looking like food rather than a viable diplomatic partner.
Yeah. And also, if you look at like power density, Erythia's up here. TNG's like a third as strong as him in terms of number of provinces. But if we go look at army size, TNG's like 20% more, or, I don't know, 15% more army. So it's probably like, 3 times the power density in TNG. So if you're like, and he's, TNG's probably scripting better too. So if you're like, who's the food and who's the hard target now? Pretty sure it's not TNG. It's probably Erythia.
Yeah, completely
Um,
agree.
and look at these army graphs, though. Zabalba, they took this. They'll be back up. They can recover these losses.
So the thing that makes that army graph a little bit
Yeah,
misleading, though,
corpse
is that
constructs.
yeah, well, but mostly it's just that those are the blood nations, right? Like the reason that their army
Right.
graphs are big is that they have all those patrollers. But that doesn't necessarily correspond to like what their actual field army sizes are.
I mean, it does and it doesn't. Like it would be great to have the field army size, but like we know Gath and Zabalba are the ones with the biggest field armies too. Like
That's true.
they're a
Yeah.
major, like super powerful, and even like the patrol trap for Gath is like sacreds. So
In gas
not
case,
all
yeah,
of it,
because they
but
well, yeah,
yeah,
but just because the Levites are so efficient in that role.
yeah. I mean, Zabalba has more chaff, but I mean, even Zabalba, I mean, they do have a lot of chaff, but they do have a lot. Beast Bat armies aren't horrible. They still have big Aussie stacks.
Yeah, beast
What is
bats
this?
are great as free spawn because they're sacred. But the problem that they're going to run into with Shivalba is that everyone's already fielding anti-mass demon counters just in order to counter the Ocelotls, and those incidentally beat up the beast bats too.
Yeah. But, I think it's sort of the same thing with Beast Mastery, right? Like, if you can't use the stuff in big armies, you just use it to raid. Like with Marburni pigs.
Oh yeah,
So, but that's also, I think, why Zabalba's hesitant to do like huge mage commitments with the Aussies. It's because, like, he can't actually win the Doomstack fights. So, why bring all the mages if you're going to lose the Doomstack fight? He's hoping to get like his powerful army to beat up medium armies, right? But
yeah, makes total sense.
whew, okay, and we'll come down here, check this out. TNG pings this.
Oh well, if
Centaur
when you look at
Sages.
what the army that got pinged again, because you closed out of it real quick. Oh okay, yeah. So the thing that's interesting about this to me are the Fire Lords. Um, so the obviously those guys aren't going to be part of the communion.
Ooh, turn 1 Pillar of Fire.
Yeah, so it looks like that's designed to put a risk on any sort of like poke out that they might make. Like, oh, I'm going to
Right.
send this guy to cast Wind of Death at you, and then there's a chance now that that guy gets sniped.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, did we go through all the battles here? I think we have. Let's double check. Oh, I think so.
Yeah, looks like.
All right, closing thoughts.
Well, it's been a while since we've done one of these, so
Yeah.
I feel like I've just been kind of getting my bearings again and watching the game. I don't think that much has changed in terms of like the status. As you pointed out, Erythia has Erythia didn't take any serious losses this turn, unlike both Shivalba and TNG, both of whom actually took what I would consider to be very significant hits this turn. So Gath and Pangea are both still riding strong. Um,
Yeah.
and like I don't like something is basically going to have to change very significantly in the game state in order to rearrange the game in order for any other power to be viable. Like right now it's basically a top two situation, and then it's just a matter of seeing which of those two is going to pull out ahead.
Yeah. And I think the more the lobby shifts towards that, the more it's going to be like Gath and Pan recruiting allies, kind of, like if it's going to be, let's go after the person who's in position one, you know, like they would probably rather it not be them.
That makes sense.
So,
Yeah. So there's probably going to be diplomacy now, or if not now, then I would say like fairly soon, in terms of the two sides trying to establish someone else as like getting on their team,
right,
so that when it comes time for them to actually split apart, no longer be allies, that they're not on the losing end.
right. Because even though they've had just a rock solid alliance all game, it has to eventually end, right? And as you get close to that, like they're still, I don't think it should end right now. They're still both prospering a lot, and they probably want to keep, knocking out weaker players so that like they really can't have a shot at winning. Nobody else can have a shot at winning but them. But at the same time, if they do that too much right now, like they also need to court these other players, right?
Right.
Because they don't want to be on the one side of the 1v3.
Yeah. No one
So,
wants to be the one without any friends when the music stops, so to speak.
right. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out diplomatically. But yeah, thanks so much for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for hosting again.
Yeah, and viewers, if you made it to the end, we thank you. So, yeah, cheers. See you next time.
See y'all then.